like to record a little bit of the pre-show banter, so I can insert that as like the little intro before the music starts. I'm hopeful I can
Yeah.
get a little recording of my cat purring here,
Oh,
be-
Oh,
there
because
he
I can
is.
hear it. It's so cute.
Yeah.
my wife
Oh,
wants to put him through a synthesizer and make like music out of his sounds, but I don't know if he's gonna
nice.
cooperate. He's usually very vocal, but that's usually around mealtime, and I fed him before so he wouldn't scream.
Mine just yowls in the middle of the night. That's like when she's at her loudest. She's kind of a loud cat, if I'm honest. But at the middle of the night, 3 a.m., she's like, now's the time to sing the song of my people. Meow. Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, a podcast about insect superpowers. Each episode, an artist and an entomologist team up to illustrate the inspiring abilities of insects by creating bug-themed superheroes. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kelly.
Producer Derek and Zotz are also here. Before we get started creating this bug-inspired hero, what's bugging you, Kelly?
Oh, Amanda. Good. Well, I guess all good stuff. My wonderful, kind in-laws, hi, Mom and Dad, they listen to the podcast, have gifted me my first macro lens for my camera.
You're going to get in on that tiny photo game, huh?
So many tiny little bugs. Producer Derek is saying, watch out, Kevin, friend of the show, Kevin,
Look out.
coming for you. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I have no idea how to use it. My husband is currently charging the battery of the camera for me, so maybe after recording I can start playing with it.
Start taking incredibly close-up photos of your cats.
Oh, right on their little nosies. Yeah.
Alien landscape? No.
Yeah.
Cat nose.
Cat nose. What about you, Meta? What's bugging you?
Oh, it's just been busy, busy, busy. It's summertime. It just feels like there's no day to, like, chill out, you know? Can't ever relax. Always got to be on the move. So that's pretty much it. It's just busyness. It's just I need like a week long vacation, and they don't exist when you're an adult.
Yeah.
They're
and
gone.
You've got little ones and
Right.
yeah.
Once you're in charge of keeping people alive, you're really not allowed to ever take a break.
Well, we also have, I'm very excited. I love a guest. Amanda loves a guest. Dr. Aaron Rodriguez, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
What's bugging you?
What's bugging you, Aaron? Yeah.
What's bugging me is this experiment I'm working on that seems to have very different outcomes depending on what time of month I do it. So it's like a experiment that looks at certain proteins in rats,
Cool.
and yeah, it gives different outcomes at different times, and I'm trying to figure out if there's some error in my preparation or there's a reagent that I'm using incorrectly or something. So
The
I'll get
rats
to
are
the
just
bottom of
messing
it.
with you. It's the rats.
Yeah.
They're like, how can we mess with him today? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we watch
Exactly.
movies, science also seems usually seems very streamlined. Like in a movie, a scientist is like, bang, 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 everything is
Right.
perfect.
I just have to isolate the protein, and it'll take 30 minutes in front of this supercomputer.
Yeah, and everything happens the first time around. You don't have to do any more trials than one. And
I
really,
know.
science is a messy lady. So that's how it goes.
I love in the movies that they have very clean labs where everything's in place. I'm like, my lab never looks like that. Like,
Mm. Yeah, it's always like that super sterile, like everything's white and smooth. All the
yeah,
lights are like shining, CSI lab style. They're like
You're
yeah,
standing
exactly.
and they're like parapetting
Yeah.
something in always, and you're like, what are you parapeting into that? That's not
pipetting, Amanda.
pipetting. Parapet is a like the side of a
That
building. What am I
goes
saying?
on a castle, I
On a
believe. Yeah.
castle. You could just be putting a whole castle into a test tube. You don't know.
And everyone's lab coats are white and have never been
Yeah.
spilled on before.
Never,
Yes.
yeah. Don't have any mustard from lunch on them or anything.
For lunch.
Oh no, Amanda, no, we never know. No, no lab coats and lunchies. Not a thing we're supposed to do. So I know you're working with rats right now, Aaron, but you have a background in one of perhaps one of the most reviled insects, the German roach. What What did you work on with those little guys?
Right. So I mainly looked at a protein called BLAG2. It's present in different tissues. And so for my PhD, I tried to figure out what exactly its role was and what proteins it interacts with. And so I didn't get a definitive answer at the end of my PhD. Like, there's not a confirmed function, but I did find out like what proteins it interacts with. And I still have like a lot of hypotheses about how it and other proteins can influence kind of the evolution and the adaptations of the cockroach.
Can you, maybe for our listeners or Amanda, I don't know how much you know about proteins, kind of.
I know that you're supposed to eat it, a lot of it, protein. I understand that it's like part of like chemical processes within an organism's body, but more than that, it becomes incredibly vague for me. Biochem was a long, long time ago for me.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, it's kind of like they have a million different functions, and it's kind of tricky to pinpoint because a lot of them have like dual functions or they have like multiple different purposes. And so I was looking mainly at proteins that are involved in the Tergal gland, like they're glands that are in adult males and they use them during courtship. So
Hmm.
basically, the males will approach the female, and she will eat out of these turgid glands because they have like very sugary secretions. They have like they're chock full of like sugars and proteins and starches, and so while she's eating it, the male will attempt to mate with her, and so it's kind of like a nuptial gift feeding
Mm-hmm.
stimulant thing that cockroaches employ, mainly German cockroaches, to reproduce.
nuptial gifts are always fascinating to me. I always find that really an interesting behavior that we've talked about several times on this show. That
Mm-hmm.
like
I
the
think
male just being like,
is it grasshoppers or katydids?
yeah,
We
Katie
talked
did.
about
Yeah.
nuptial gifts and katydids, which is a sperm packet.
Yeah.
Not, I would rather the sugary
Yeah,
sugary
give me
treat
a
from a
little
German
snacky
cockroach.
snack. Sounds like the German cockroach knows how to find a lady.
Yeah. I've also heard like some species of insects. I think robber flies. The males will like trick the female and give her like a piece of glass or something, and like wrap it up and pretend it's like something nice, and then she
Rude.
won't realize
We've heard
until
of that
after the mating.
with spiders too. They're like, I wrapped up this fly for you. Then she opens it up, and there's nothing in there, and he's like, ha 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 ha. He's already gone.
It's horrible.
Well,
A
maybe
lot
that's
of
why
trickery
cockroaches
in
are so
bug mating.
successful.
Yeah.
They've got a great strategy of just little sugary treats. And then she's like, all right,
Yeah,
let's make this happen. You seem nice.
exactly. Yeah.
What made you want to work with German cockroaches, but specifically for this?
Um, It had a lot to do with, I guess, who kind of recommended it. So I grew up in New York, my entire life, and I worked under Dr. Robert Corrigan after a while. So he's a entomologist and also rat expert in New York. He's like a world famous rat guy, really smart, really hardworking. And so I volunteered for him when I was an undergrad, and he went to Purdue for his PhD. And after I finished or was on the way to finishing my biology master's, he was recommending Purdue. It's like a good school, and he went there, and he thought it would be a really good track for me. And I'd applied to other programs, but Purdue stood out because my mentor did so well there, and so I decided to do that. And I liked cockroaches, and they happened to have a open program for someone who wanted to work with them, and so I figured, that was kind of the best animal for me, just because it's urban, and I'm used to urban insects, and
Yeah.
it seemed a lot more fun than a lot of the other options.
Bobby Corrigan, for context, Amanda,
Yes.
he's like the Jane Goodall of
Oh,
rats.
Yes,
that's awesome.
So
He's the guy.
yeah, he's a big deal.
he's a big deal. Yeah.
So my 6 degrees of Jane Goodall have diminished slightly now. Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Oh, that's so cool, Aaron. What an incredible mentor to have. You were uh, a lucky person to go with that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like I've been very lucky. Like he was great, and my PI for my PhD was great, and in my postdoc, my current boss is also fantastic. He's a great boss. So yeah, I've been pretty lucky when it comes to my research track so far.
That's not always the case in academia, so I'm really happy
Yeah,
for
I
you.
know. I got off easy, yeah.
Are cockroaches a common subject of research? It feels like the stereotype is that there's a lot of them, so you could always get more. But I don't know how true that really is.
Yeah, it's very nuanced. Like I know, I went to school in the Midwest. I went to Purdue for my PhD, and it's like, yeah, pest control is really big there, and it makes sense. It's like an agricultural school, and we have a lot of establishments, a lot of housing, and so yeah, we do a lot of research into pesticides, not just for roaches, but for ants and you know uh, animals that might attack agriculture. So they might,
Mm,
corn pests or pests of tomatoes, so on. So I feel like it's more of a topic of conversation on an academic level in the Midwest when it comes to insects. But I mean, here too, there's a bit of research. Like, I know I did a bit of mosquito research back in undergrad, and yeah, there are other programs where they study insects. But yeah, the Midwest is like definitely a big place when it comes to roaches and figuring out how to manage their populations.
Because Kelly's talked before about how there's lots of things we haven't researched as people just because no one's on the other end being like, that'll be helpful to what I want to achieve. Like, oh,
yeah.
yeah, we don't study this because who is that helpful to? So I can see why studying cockroaches would be helpful.
Sometimes, yeah, our research can be very anthropocentric, right? So we
Yeah.
study things that affect humans, even though there are so many incredible insects out there that we can look at that we don't interact with at all, or very lightly, perhaps. But I think it is super important to work on things like German roaches. And German roaches are an invasive species, so we have had to deal with them in you know, in those situations as well.
Yeah, we don't really have as many here in the PNW. We do have some, I believe, but they're not the stereotype around here. Around here it's ants.
Ants.
Oh yeah.
There's ants everywhere.
So
Mhm.
what have you discovered about this protein?
So I found that there are different types of the same protein, like different isoforms. They're basically like different variants of the protein in the cockroach. Like there's one that's specifically only in the pregnant females, for some reason, and there's like two others that every roach has. So, they're in different tissues. You can find them in adults and nymphs. Even the eggs can have a little bit of blotchy too. Um, so it's pretty much a ubiquitous protein. Also, previous research shows that it's like very allergenic, so it is medically significant. I think you only
Mm,
need like a tenth of the amount to elicit an allergic response compared to something like cat dander. So,
wow.
a lot of people can suffer from this protein. Like I think a lot of especially maybe like more urban environments where cockroaches thrive, maybe lower income houses, people are typically more
Hmm.
predisposed to that. So it is very medically significant, and I think there is a lot of merit to researching and sort of investing grant money to looking at this protein. So it interacts with a lot of other proteins too. Like there's one protein called apolipoforin that's very common, and we see that it tends to interact with BLAG2. So um, it could maybe have a role in shuttling carbohydrates or something else. But yeah, there are a lot of interesting things about it when you look at sort of the biochemistry of how the protein exists and how it thrives.
That's fascinating. And
Mm.
the way proteins affect so many different things. Like it's not like you have this
Yeah.
one protein doing this one thing. It has multiple roles within the organism, which is really cool. Like really cool. How
Yeah, yeah, it's
I'm trying to
fantastic because it's. Oh, sorry.
no, no, I was
It's
trying to
kind of
think of
like
a way to ask. Go on.
yeah. There is an interesting, I think, kind of detail about it. It's like, I think I brought up the idea of like Tergal glands and
Mhm.
BLAG2 and how it's involved in secretions and mating, but also we know that the proteins and the secretions that the male gives off, they're eaten by other members of the cockroach group or cockroach intrusion. It's like even like the nymphs will kind of consume the secretions, even though, there's no mating going on or attempted mating, but it's like the entire group of cockroaches rely on the males to produce these secretions and they'll eat them. And so at my defense, I thought or speculated that it may have a function that we don't understand in terms of like we don't have a ton of evidence for this, but I think a lot of the proteins involved are like secondary digestive enzymes. So I think, other cockroaches eat them, and this secondary resource of enzymes helps them to like break down the toxic materials they normally eat. Like, I think that's why cockroaches
Wow.
have survived so well in like really
Mm.
toxic environments, is like they have this secondary set of enzymes to help break down, harmful like reductive agents or something else. So, yeah, there are a lot of functions we still have yet to uncover about,
It's, that's the
this protein and also
cliche.
other proteins.
That's the cliche
Hmm.
of cockroaches, right? Is that they'll survive anything. That the
Yeah.
nuclear fallout will happen, but the cockroaches will remain. I think it's
Yeah.
Wally. He has like a pet cockroach because everyone else is gone, but the cockroach remains. And you think, well, your research is suggesting that maybe that's part of it. Is these something about the interaction of these proteins is making them just super resilient?
Yeah, I think so. It's like, um, it's sort of like I connected different bits of information doing my research. It's like, I use mass spectrometry, which is a really cool way to uh, take a sample and you can identify like all of the proteins or the vast majority of proteins in that sample. And so you can do that, and then you can find the IDs for those samples or sample proteins, like apolipoforin. If I have a sample and there's apolipoforin in it, mass spec will tell me that, and then I can take the ID of apolipoforin and uh, put it into a system called Blast2Go. It's a program that I used, and it'll kind of spit out what the known functions are for that protein. So you do that for the hundreds of proteins in Tergal glands or in those Tergal gland secretions, and a lot of them like break down carbohydrates, a lot of them break down protein. So there's a lot of breaking down going on in those secretions. So it makes sense that they have some kind of digestive purpose, and that's why a lot of nymphs will eat from those, because they might need some more assistance breaking down
Mhm.
toxic materials. Their body may not withstand it as much, and so yeah, there's still so much we can uncover about these secretions and their functions and kind of how cockroaches are evolving. I think it's in a very odd way of kind of evolving towards eusociality or being more eusocial.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like termites are cockroaches, and they're like very eusocial and they're very intimate with each other in different ways. I think our German cockroaches and other cockroach species are like evolving towards that, as they continue in this urban environment. I think their participation with each other is like, you know, it ensures that they're becoming, suited to the environment and can thrive in each generation.
What it also reminds me of the need for, at least in mammals, the breast milk provides proper gut bacteria for the baby, and this is like a similar function for these roaches. Or there are other insects who
Is it
other insects who do it as well, to keep
Mhm.
the gut bacteria where adults or nymphs will eat the feces of adults.
I was gonna say, isn't
This is just a
koala one
nicer
of the
step.
ones? Yeah, that's
Koala?
Koalas.
I think koalas do this. They're like, "Bleh."
Yeah.
And you're like, that's gross. But how else is baby gonna get it unless someone introduces it? And
Yeah.
they say that like in humans, like we're all underestimating the importance of our gut health at like any given time. That like,
Mm.
oh, you're sick, maybe it's your gut health, and but maybe that being influenced by my father, who's like, have you talked about your gut health lately? He's like, okay, you gotta take this green tea. Yeah, so
Well, I think
Mhm.
it's even more interesting that it's males that are providing this because
Yeah.
generally it's females when we think about at least gut bacteria, but other colonial insects that do this through fecal consumption. I guess I'm assuming it's males and females. So it's neat that the males in in a lot of these societies, insect societies or groups, mostly provide the function of sperm, and that's kind of it. So for the males to be more useful to the entire colony in that way is really interesting to me.
Mhm.
Would you say that cockroaches are making colonies the way that I hear colony and I think of like the termite setup, the which I realize there's some overlap there, but the ants with their like their central, here's where all the eggs are happening, and then you kind of can extrapolate out from there. Would you say that cockroaches do something at all similar, or you think they're going that way with the eusocial sort of idea?
Huh, that's a great question. I think they're part of the way there. So I think
Mm.
there are some activities that they do that you won't really see in like more solitary creatures, like, the idea that they will feed from each other. So you have the male that has Tergal secretions, and the others will feed from him. But also like the chemical communication. So they also deposit feces, and their feces have like microbes that might give off some kind of chemical signature.
Mm.
um, and also the females, when they're adult, fully developed, they also have like pheromones on their cuticle, the surface of their exoskeleton, that can signal that they're interested in mating, so that a male knows that he can approach. And so, yeah, little things like these make me think that, they are evolving. Even the protein that I mentioned, BLAGI2, so it's called an aspartic protease. That's something that usually like cleaves proteins down, but that has been lost. So the activity that it normally does, which is like cleaving proteins, peptides, it's lost that ability recently. So I think it's sort of evolved out of doing that, and it's just funny because I think um, the males are kind of taking on a more involved role. I bet like beforehand, maybe the males and their growth secretions were not as pronounced, or maybe they didn't have that role before, but I think it's like
Mm.
a rapidly evolving role, due to like maybe selective pressure in the environment, living with humans, that they're learning to cooperate with each other a bit more. I think that's one reason ants are so resilient in like human habitats, is like they work together very well, and that can
Yeah.
really help when you're
Hmm.
trying to make a home out of concrete, and so on.
We
Aren't
just
we all
one
in the
little ant.
city?
We're all trying to
Yeah,
carve our way into
exactly.
the concrete
Yeah.
in New York. Sorry, just breaking a little Alicia Keys there for you. Um, I've lost my question now. I don't remember what it was. Oh, so in one of your links that you sent us, you talked very briefly about the idea of using the cockroach and their radiation resistance as a way to help people through chemotherapy. Did you extrapolate on that at all? Were you able to
uh,
follow that track at all?
yeah. So yeah, like I thought about it, and I always like to like kind of look at the mechanics for why insects seem to be very different from
Mm-hmm.
people in different tasks. It's like insects seem very strong. They seem to be able to lift more than we do, and they can
Hmm.
withstand certain pressures that we can't. And so for radiation therapy, it made me think of the phenomenon of like why insects seem to survive radiation and radiation therapy better than we do. Like, there was a event that I don't really hear people in New York talk about much, but it's like the nuclear fallout in Chernobyl back in
Mm-hmm.
1986, and where like a bunch of insects got exposed to radiation, and some of them thrived, and some of them like got bigger with like longer wings and stuff. There's a one of my
One of them
favorite
turned into the
artists.
Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of my favorite artists is like Cornelia Hess Honegger, and she would sort of draw illustrations of insects. And yeah, they've been known just historically to withstand radiation very well. So I think um, I would like to do more analysis in terms of like, what is it about their cells that make them more resilient to radiation? I know
Hmm.
insects molt, and so they kind of have like this timed cyclical ability to have their cells divide and function in a way, and so that can really shield you from a lot of radiation or DNA
Mm.
damage, because a lot of radiation. I think it affects people as, humans, because we have a bunch of cells and our cells are constantly dividing and they divide very quickly. And so that's like a recipe for disaster when you're dealing with radiation, because, yeah, your cells are more prone to make an error when they're not
Hmm.
only getting radiation, but they're trying to create new DNA uh, transcripts and so on. And so, yeah, I think there's like we could probably investigate that a bit more. I think there's like maybe mathematical equations we can use, or if we can somehow time our own cells, if we could get that kind of control over our bodies, I wonder if that would eliminate the risk we have when we're, faced with some kind of radiation. So still a work in progress. I'm doing other things with insects, but that's
Hmm.
definitely on the bucket list. So
That's fascinating. Yeah, and it's interesting to think that why they're resilient against radiation is because of the molting process, and that it happens kind of all at once. It's not this constant cell
mm,
turnover that we have.
yeah.
How would how would you even look at that? Do you have like ideas kicking around in your head about processes and methods? And I mean, don't give away your secrets here on the podcast, but someone will scoop you.
Yeah.
Well, I think so if we're looking at it in terms of like insects, so like I have a cockroach, I want to see how it sort of replicate, or how does it molt, and how do its cells replicate and divide. I mean there's microscopy for that. I mean there are different types of microscopy. Like I do confocal microscopy for my heart cells, my cardiomyocytes that I look at in rodents. But yeah, I think for insects it's possible. Typically, I think the smaller the better. So, like looking at the way that maybe nymphs, very small nymphs, divide would be a really cool
Mm,
way of sort of patterning the cells. Um, People may find this a bit contentious, but I think AI would be like a really great tool for that in terms of like recognizing dividing cells and being able to sort of categorize and keep an eye on all of them. So I think that could be a really useful tool for, trying to document and like quantify the different rates of like division and how long it takes each cell at each point to divide and so on. So
mhm.
yeah, it's something that I have an idea about, but I still have to execute.
It's gonna sounds like it's going to be a difficult process to execute. I hope you do.
Yeah.
I would, and if you do, please come back and tell us about it because yeah, it's very, very neat. I do have to ask, how did you go from entomology to rat cardiology? How did that
Yeah, it was
happen?
yeah, that's a good question. It was I don't know, it seems almost like a bit of a paradox. Like it was intentional but also unintentional in terms of like, just how it is to be a researcher, and like how you have to be a bit opportunistic at times. It's like
Hmm.
you have to
Yeah.
kind of get the research opportunities that are available. It doesn't have to be your favorite. And so, um, early on, like during my undergrad, I would look at anything I could get in terms of like, can I volunteer at this lab or that lab? Can I do like an internship or whatever? And so I worked with mice at Mount Sinai when I was like 19. And then I think the year after was when I met Bobby Corrigan, because I love rats and I wanted to do any kind of research I could. So I did that with him. And then, fast forward to my master's and then to my PhD, where I did like a lot of mass spec. So that involved like a lot of biochemistry, Western blotting,
Hmm.
and IP immunoprecipitation. So all those things kind of tie in with biochemistry. And I remember looking for jobs. I knew I wanted to come back to New York and I wanted to be a scientist, but coming back to New York was more important to me than like the specific kind of science I'd be doing. Like I could be working with rats or plants or bugs, I'd be happy doing any of that. And so my boss or my lab was sort of advertising like, we need a postdoc. If you have biochemistry experience, great. If you have experience working with rodents, then perfect. And if you have like heart disease experience, then that's good. And like coincidentally, like I just matched all three because I was a assistant for a heart disease researcher for my master's, and like
Wow.
it was just kind of a very like serendipitous uh, experience, like kind of coming across that job application. And so, um, I've never been strictly insects. It's like I'm usually like volunteering with rats, or I volunteered for heart disease research, or that was actually more of a career than a volunteer work. But yeah, it's like as a scientist, you have to be very generalist and kind of
Hmm.
volunteer wherever you can. And I love kind of the forgiveness of different recruiting programs where, if you looked at ants, that doesn't mean that you're disqualified from like looking at another organism. So, biology can be very welcoming, even if you don't have the exact line of research that they're delving into. So, yeah, it's kind of just been like a taking whatever chances I have, and then coincidentally, all those things I investigated and researched happen to be like part of the standard that my current job is looking for. So, very lucky on my part.
Yeah. Oh, that's you were meant to come home. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's
You're
how it
meant to come
feels.
back to
Yeah,
New York.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think a lot of maybe what most folks who are not scientists don't understand is that we are usually here to answer a question, and whatever the study organism is sometimes very secondary to what the question is. So if you have the skills to answer that question, like you said, it doesn't matter if it's rats or roaches or people or a
Yeah.
fig tree, like it's the skill set that matters. And it does give us a lot of opportunity to bounce around, and I think makes us more well rounded researchers to dip our little toes in different fields like that.
Oh yeah, you're totally right. And I mean, just looking back, it's like the troubleshooting I did for my PhD and the parts that I didn't understand. I look back at it after having like spent a few years here at Columbia and doing research, and I could be like, oh, I could totally like tackle that question and fix that problem very easily if I had to like go back and do that research. It's like, yeah, it's you're so right about being well-rounded and how that's such a benefit because you just see things from different perspectives that maybe a purist wouldn't. Someone who's
Hmm.
been looking at like diabetes research their whole life may not tackle it the way that a marine biologist would.
Yeah.
Silly example, but yeah, like similar idea.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think it's also why collaboration in science is so important, because two
Yeah.
heads are better than one when you're coming from very. I work with generally mosquitoes, but I
Mhm.
think this season I'll be branching out a little bit more into isopods, which I worked on for my master's. So I'm like kind of excited to go back to isopods. But I'm also working with a friend of mine who is a plant ecologist, and he studies pitcher plants. So I'll be looking at insect communities around pitcher plants, which is giving me like a really
Wow.
cool insight to that community
Yeah.
interaction, which I wouldn't have had
Yeah.
before if I just like stuck to mosquitoes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love pitcher plants, and yeah, that's really cool. Do you have a favorite like organism to research, or do you just love them all?
Oh boy. Um, Aaron's interviewing me, Amanda. Um,
Sorry, I got distracted by my drawing, and I haven't been very
There's a drawing.
talkative.
Oh, I don't know. I worked with, boy, I worked with several insects from my master's and
Yeah.
non-insects like terrestrial isos, but I think I feel like I'm coming back to those little guys. They're very fun to look at. They
Hmm.
are gregarious organisms like cockroaches, where they want to kind of be together, and there's lots of like weird little interactions going on there. So I think
Oh.
maybe right now it's them. I love spiders. I'd love to do wolf spider research. I think they're fascinating. Believe it or not, I
Oh,
love crows. I almost did my
oh,
master's
so
research
cool.
on crows. I was
Really?
looking at, I wanted to look at their play behavior. I had noticed just anecdotally some like fun things that they were doing, and I wanted to study that, but
We
it
have a
didn't
crow in our
quite work
neighborhood
out.
that comes when you yell Derek.
Really?
My dad has been throwing old pieces of bread, which I know I'm gonna get scolded for feeding birds bread, but anything like that's like, oh, this bread has gone stale, this waffle's no good, that sort of stuff, or apple skins, whatever it is. You go out in the front yard at my parents' house and you yell Derek, Derek, and you throw it into the yard, and then the birds come. They know that if you yell Derek, Derek, they're about to get a nice little treat.
Your parents have associated your brother's name to food with birds. This feels
Dad's
like
been
a
doing it for
trick.
like 10 years, so it's well established at this point. We don't have
Oh
any
my
sort of
god.
trade negotiation with them though, and I'm like, Dad, you're missing out on the chance
Oh, they
to
haven't brought you
like
any gifts yet.
get quarters and stuff.
Well,
But
Aaron, if you could work with any organism because you have had such a varied and interesting career, what uh what would you work with?
Oh, that's such a great question. Okay. I think, I mean, I've loved every organism I've worked with. Like, working with German cockroaches was great, and like working with rats and mice as I do now is great because they're just so adorable. Like, I love how cute rodents are.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's less of pushback, and there's less red tape when you're working with things without a backbone.
Oh
So I
yeah.
would probably rule out like like rats or mammals or anything. I think if I'm being realistic, I'd probably want to work with something that is uh easy to take care of and can like kind of multiply quickly. I think I think crickets, like
Hmm.
regular like house crickets. I think those are like my favorite. I'm actually working with a few right now. Like I have colonies in at the moment because they're just like very easy when it comes to keeping them and doing experiments on them.
Why well, that I think that leads us to you have many critters that you keep at home, right? Both I guess at home and in the
Yeah,
lab. Can you tell us
yeah,
about your menagerie?
sure, sure. I love talking about them. So I have like a lot of different insects and arachnids, and I have like quail and yeah, just different animals, but mainly insects and arachnids. And so what I love to do is I'll do outreach. I'll do like workshops for different schools and like art venues and museums and like my main hangouts are like the Queen's Botanical Garden and the Brooklyn Children's Museum. I'll usually do shows for people, mainly kids, but I'll do shows where like I instruct people or sort of educate them on different animals and they're free to like hold them and take pictures with them and sort of get familiar with them. It's like very interactive. And I find like it's a really nice learning tool for kids because, they love to learn and kids love to listen, but they just want to be interested when they do it.
Hmm.
So I think having like a bug or some kind of spider they've never seen before and like letting them interact with it. It's usually like a really nice way to get kids to learn about things without it feeling like they're learning. Like it's just fun for them?
You have to
So
trick them into
yeah.
learning something.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And it's like the animals I keep are harmless. Like I keep mostly like, praying mantids, I'll keep
Mm.
grasshoppers, hissing cockroaches, a ton of different beetles, and yeah, they're like really nice tools because they're just so easy to handle. And like especially the bigger ones tend not to move very much. And so yeah, it's been great to sort of educate people that way. And I love the element of like the honesty of it. It's like when you bring out like a tarantula or something, like no matter who they are, their reaction to it will probably be genuine. It's not gonna be like, oh, that's so great for you. No, it's like they're either afraid or they're fascinated or yeah, kind of like reaching people at that level where you can, present them with something they've never seen and their reaction is just so genuine. uh, yeah, it's like very refreshing to have people kind of interact that way and to, express how they really feel about things and to be afraid, but to be curious and to that happiness when they kind of overcome their fear. It's like really cool to do shows with insects. Have either of you done that before?
Uh, we don't have animals to like go and take places. Friend
Yeah.
of the pod, Kevin talks a lot about outreach with like
Hmm.
holding spiders specifically and being like getting someone
Oh,
who is
really?
afraid of spiders to hold a spider is like Kevin's greatest joy. He loves that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do that. I've been to like the insectarium and stuff here in Portland, but there's not a lot of options to like interact with the animal, and I wish there was more. Um, I can remember as a kid, like you said, going to our local science museum and them having like just tanks and tanks and tanks of animals. But even then, you can't
Yeah.
really hold them unless a like handler is there holding it in front of you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I've done workshops before for
Mhm.
high school aged women interested in science,
that
which
sounds
is
fun.
important to get young women interested in these things, especially
Yeah.
entomology.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I used hissing cockroaches at this workshop, and we designed like a little experiment together for the students to do. And some of them were a little squeamish, and that's okay. But by the end of it, they were all petting the cockroaches, and I consider that a
Aw.
giant win. Yeah.
Does a cockroach
Yeah.
enjoy being pet? I just wonder about insects and pet. You know, because I think of a pet. I want a pet that loves me back, and I don't know what the what the emotional fortitude of a cockroach is. Could the cockroach love me back, and would they enjoy being pet, or would they find
Oh,
me like you're like barely squishing me? Please stop.
yeah.
You're
Those are good questions. I think I thought that I've heard about some evidence that they can tell us apart, like they
oh,
can tell
interesting.
people apart by scent. Like, and I mean that for like the hissing cockroaches, like
Yeah,
the bigger ones that are maybe a bit more intelligent than the smaller ones. Um, but I don't know if they're. I would say that they're not necessarily affectionate. I think it's like a hmm. I think it's a mixture of different things. I think it's like insects crave heat. They love heat. So, like your hand is very warm, and
right.
so, yeah, they might be drawn to that, and they're also drawn to like the dark, so, hiding in your hand or something like that. Um, I know that the more intelligent insects are like bees and wasps and so on, but I've never really heard about them being like very affectionate or loving you back. I think if insects do that, it's probably going to be one of those three, like the bees, wasps, or ants. I think they're like the smarter ones, and the ones that are more social are probably going to be the ones that you can expect something out of, which is sad because they're also the ones that can sting you. So it's a bit of a
Yeah.
risk to invest. Um, it kind of parallels like the animals that we typically have are usually like social animals or pack animals like dogs.
Hmm.
One reason we could socialize them and they're such good friends for us is because they're in packs and social. And
And
yeah,
humans will
if we're
pack
ever
bond
to
anything, anything. We'll pack bond a vacuum cleaner if you let us. We anything. Like,
Well, I
that.
wonder with the larger cockroaches, like hissing roaches. So
yeah.
they do live in colonies, and they groom, and they do often touch each other to kind of figure out where everybody is. So I wonder if they would be a little bit more willing to be pet because they are
Yeah.
constantly in touch with each other. You know what I
Interesting.
mean?
Like
Yeah.
I'm already dubious about like reptiles. Like, does a reptile even really love you back, or do they
No, it
just like
doesn't.
that you're warm
It
and they can
doesn't.
sit on you?
I don't think the roach loves you back, but I think given
It
its
might associate you
colonial
with good things.
structure, yeah, that it may like to be touched because they're touching each other all the time. So
Right.
I don't know. Aaron, there's your
Just
next project.
sizing you up of when to eat you.
Yeah, yeah, it's like yeah, the bigger ones, yeah, they especially I've noticed that I have like large tanks of them, but I noticed that they still, no matter how many hiding spots are available, they love to like cuddle together really tight.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I wonder if they, prefer that for humans too. Like I know they might hiss. usually to like, fend off a predator or to assert some kind of boundary, but a lot of times when you've had them for a while, they don't hiss at you that much or at all. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I wonder if they've gotten used to our touch and actually come to prefer it. I hope that's the case because
Yeah.
I too value pets that, are affectionate back. So that would only be good news for me.
Yeah. And you want them to be comfortable, in general, because they're
Yeah.
like living little
Yeah.
dudes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's a question people typically, especially if you're like a person like me that does shows with animals and like educational workshops, is like, are you stressing out the animal? Like, is it kind of moral and
Mm.
ethical for you to expose people to these animals? And, are the animals comfortable? And so I've chosen species that at the very least, don't seem to mind human interaction.
Mm.
I have other species that I just don't bring to shows because they clearly don't. They don't. They're really not fans of people.
Hmm.
But yeah. This is a great conversation because it's like, yeah. I guess you should always ask yourself, like, is the organism that you're interacting with, are they comfortable? Like, how are they seeing the interaction between, you and them? It's like that kind of empathy can be it opens up a lot of interesting, useful questions.
Maybe when you're out doing these very awesome things with the children, and you can
Yeah.
maybe remind them of that too, and be like, hey, I only bring the bugs with me that I think are okay with this. Like,
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
shouldn't just
Yes, exactly.
manhandle all the bugs because they're awesome looking and we want to.
For your safety and theirs. There's because
Yeah, exactly.
caterpillars in particular, people are always like picking up caterpillars, and I'm like, don't do that. He's gonna get you. You can't just pick up anybody. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
What
And
kind
you.
of spiders do you
I'm
bring?
sorry.
Oh,
Oh, sorry. Derek's dropping
I
art.
Oh, beautiful. I love this one. This
Sorry,
is
sorry.
fantastic.
Let me talk about. You can see my notes reference on the side. I was trying to combine elements of Fallout, Mr. Freeze, and possibly the Borg, given our conversation about them. Like
Oh,
maybe they're
that's so
becoming
cool.
becoming
Yeah.
communal like the Borg. But my idea was that he lives in some sort of fallout situation where things have gone badly. But he's got this juice of some kind that he carries around on these big tanks. And then he helps people by giving them the juice. And I don't know if he makes the juice, he secretes the juice, I don't know. But somehow the juice makes other people hardier, and then they can survive the situation they've found themselves in.
This is
You-
genius. I love it. Wow.
A lot more serious than last time we talked about cockroaches. I think we did Danny DeVito in a spandex suit.
yes.
So this one's a little bit more like a superhero guy. A different genre of comic, I think.
Yeah, Aaron,
But
what superpowers do you think cockroaches have other than surviving nuclear fallout?
he also needs like a
That's
German last name because he's a German cockroach.
yeah, true. Oh, that's a great question. Okay, well, I know that they're fast. Like
Oh yeah,
cockroaches are
that's last
super
time.
fast. So I think maybe something with super speed and also their senses are really good in terms of like, they have like hair-like structures that pick up wind very easily and they connect to ganglia, so they can like run out of a room and not even know why they're running out. Like their ganglia are just like so lightning quick and they're
Oh,
so
time to leave.
reactive. Yeah.
Okay, I'll give him some like computer readouts here on his like wrist things. He's like, oh, I gotta check out what this situation is.
Can you describe for the audience, Aaron, ganglia, what that term means? And
My great
Yeah,
end ganglia.
yeah, so I think it's like essentially like collections of neurons basically. It's like, we as humans, we have a central nervous system. So, like, a lot of our neurons are in our head and, like, along our spinal cord and so on. And so, if we were to get decapitated, then that would kind of be the end. Like, we couldn't survive something like that, partly because of the fact that, the neurons regulate a lot of our organs. We don't consciously think to, like, move our intestines or have our heartbeat, but that a lot of that is kind of coded by the brain. But insects are different, or at least cockroaches. So cockroaches have a decentralized nervous system. So, I think they have some neurons in their brain, but a lot of the ganglia neurons run down like their abdomen and their thorax. And so that's why if you cut a head off a cockroach, it can still survive for many days. I think they only die from I think thirst because they need
Mm,
water and
yeah.
they need to eat. So yeah, so a lot of their ganglia, they have like clusters of them and they're still in their thorax, and so they can still move around and react to stimuli and mate and not just roaches but other animals like mantises, for example. I think we all know the telltale story of the female eating the male. And so when she cuts his head off or chews it off, he's still mating. Like, they're still joining, body parts, and he's still like fertilizing the eggs, even when his head is removed. So yeah, a lot of different insects kind of have that decentralized nervous system. It can really be valuable when you lose your head because you can still
Hmm.
continue to pass your genes on to the next generation.
What a horrifying thing to think about. Could you imagine? Oh
Yeah.
boy. But
Like, it's pretty rare that the
fascinating.
chicken
Yeah.
does that, but it sounds like a lot of bugs could. Like,
Yeah.
we always talk about the chicken, but we really need to be cockroaches with our
The
heads cut off.
cockroach. Yeah, their
Yeah.
nervous systems are really so different to ours, so alien in that way. It's almost like octopuses, where they have these sort of individual ganglia in, or like brain structures in each tentacle. So they're like each arms
Yeah.
rather. So they're moving them all independently. And nature is awesome.
Oh yeah.
Nature is just the coolest. Evolution is amazing. We have so many branches of how all this works. It's being a scientist is so fun, right, Aaron? Because we get to like learn about so many different things.
Oh God, yeah, I love it. I love that the interest I have, like it stems from back when I was like literally a baby, like my mom told me I came out the womb looking for insects and yeah, it's just like satisfying that curiosity. It's immensely fun. And I think some people have like this idea of like regret. Like some people take a career path and they're like, should I have become a nurse or should I have become like an architect or whatever? But for me, it's like there's never been a day where I regret being a scientist. Like this is
Hmm.
exactly what I was supposed to do. So it's great to have decided and had the luck to have it work out for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I want for everyone. I want everyone to wake up and go, "This is the job that I've always wanted. This is the career that I've always wanted." I feel the same way. I
Yeah.
always wanted to be a scientist from when I was a very little girl. And every
Mm.
day I wake up and get to do my job is just the best day. Yeah.
Being a buggy person is a calling, obviously. You guys knew what
Yes.
you wanted so young, and you're like, the bugs are calling me. They need
The
me.
siren song of the insects.
The cicadas, I hear them in the trees. They say, "Come, be a bug person."
Yes, exactly.
In one of your interviews you had, I think it was the Obscura interview, you talk a little bit about how helping people, and we talked about this briefly already too, helping people get past their fear of bugs. You think it helps improve their ability to interact with others who may be different from them within our own species? Would you say that that's...
We'll
Huh?
sorry, we'll link to these links
Oh,
so
yes,
the
to these.
listeners know what we're talking about. Yeah, in
Yeah,
the show
yeah, yeah.
notes, so.
Just, you mentioned the ability to be empathetic to these animals, even if they weren't empathetic before. Do you think that learning to love a bug would help us to learn to love our fellow man, even though sometimes they're yelling at us on the streets of New York saying, "I'm walking here," or whatever it is that New York
I'm
does?
walking here.
"I'm walking here."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, obviously insects and humans are quite different from each other.
Mhm.
So, when I say that you can love one and that means you can love another, it's more like the mechanism of fear and sort
Mm.
of how do we regulate our emotions. and how do we sort of interpret the world and interpret facts based on our emotional profiles and our emotional thought processes. I think that's something a lot of people still have to learn. I think we can all understand or relate to that. It's like a lot of people in our lives that have been negative or react negatively, it's more to do with them not being able to process their emotions and regulate them. And so, when people see an insect, whether it be society that's sort of influenced that, or maybe they have some kind of innate fear, I think society is like more of a driving force behind the disgust and fear of insects. But either way, it's typically an emotional response. And so I think this mechanism of being afraid of something and immediately wanting to hurt it or to
Mm-hmm.
kind of alienate it, call it the other, and not try to understand it. I think that's a mechanism that extends far beyond insects. We do that with people of different cultures or religions, whatever. We do that with different things, whether it be like different foods. I mean, that sort of process is just so ubiquitous in different
Mm-hmm.
areas of our life, and so I think when you can really sort of take that and dismantle it and sort of unpack why you feel that way and understand why that's not beneficial to learning and to treating other people the way they deserve, and other organisms the way they deserve. I think that's really a goal that you should have, and your life will be better for it. Um so with insects, cockroaches, people are immediately afraid, but you should always try to dissect why you feel strongly about something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it because you think it can hurt you? Well, okay, only 30%, or sorry, only 30 cockroach species are really like a pest, and there are over 4,600 cockroach species, so like that's less than 1%. So
Mm-hmm.
is your idea of cockroaches as a kind of monolith, is that inaccurate, and do you need to sort of educate yourself on that? And so that applies to a lot of things. And so I think I've noticed that in myself too. It's like, being opposed to, whether it be polyamory, which I didn't understand much about and was very quick to judge, but it's like, no, I can understand it. It may not be my thing, but I can give different examples, but just having
Yeah.
more of a welcoming mind can really allow you to be open to people, be respectful, develop empathy, and you'll learn a little bit about yourself. Maybe you're not the person you thought you were, in terms of like you actually align with this thing you were afraid of, or you
Mm-hmm.
were scared of. Like, funny enough for me, I was afraid of spiders when I was a kid, and yeah, I just learned more about them. I had a friend with a tarantula, and now I love them. It's like, we can all
Yay,
we
Team
can all
Spider.
afford to do that. And yeah, despite me loving insects, I was a little afraid of spiders as a kid. So yeah, it can really make your life better.
Definitely. It and like you said with like polyamory,
Yeah.
if folks who are homophobic, they've never met a gay person in their life, and then you
Mm-hmm.
meet a gay person, you realize that person's just trying to live. They're just trying to live their
Right.
life. They're
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
person like anybody else. And I think
Hmm.
thinking about that in the context of, you're afraid of spiders, and then you meet a really cool spider, and you're like, oh, spiders aren't that bad. They're awesome. You can really kind of apply this unnecessary fear that it's not your fault that you're afraid, but you can get past that, if
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
with proper
You can
help.
overcome the instinct in your back of your brain to be afraid of what you do not know,
Yeah,
and you know glow up, as it were, and
that's why we need
become a
more
better human.
people doing stuff like you're doing, Aaron, out there and showing the children, showing the adults that these organisms are cool, like really cool, and also just trying to live their little bug lives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it comes kind of full circle, our idea of like, what does this help, researching this, what does it help people with? And I think that's really cool that the answer sometimes is it's helping people become better people. The answer is
Yeah.
learning how to be
Exactly.
empathetic to something that's not like you. I
Yeah.
don't know, I just
Right.
found that
Yeah.
really profound, like, wow, science outreach is cool.
It's why
Yeah,
we do the
and even on a
podcast.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad I came, and it's like, this sort of message we've been talking about. I think even on like a selfish level, it's better for you. I think like I have a friend, for example, she didn't like snakes, and
Hmm.
I had her hold mine, and she learned more about them, and then she ended up loving them, and ended up giving
Oh,
a snake to her, and she loves it, so she bought another one, and like
oh, I love
it's
this.
yeah, even on like a personal, like even selfish level, it's like the idea of learning about something you were afraid of, or that you thought could hurt you, and like learning about it and conquering that fear, and becoming knowledgeable about it, and sort of keeping it, like keeping an animal you were afraid of. I think that's just so liberating, and it can be
Mm,
really exciting and fulfilling to conquer that in that way. So
Hmm.
I think everyone could benefit from like opening their mind up a little bit.
definitely.
Okay, so I added some ganglia to our guy.
So cool.
Gave him some little like I don't know, discs that are scanning the area on one shoulder, and then I add some readouts to his
Yeah.
like wristicuffs here, and then I gave him a little satellite guy to kind of represent that there's more of them around. Like
Oh, wow.
there's his little
That's
colony
a little
guy.
nymph.
His little nymph is in the corner there, being like,
So
"Okay, I'm
cool.
looking out." So there you go.
What
The,
what colors, Aaron, would you
oh
suggest
yeah,
for a
when I
hero of
color this
this
guy.
type?
Ah, that's a great question. Okay, a lot of cockroaches are like a dark color, like maybe brown, but I don't know. I don't think it has to be that one dimensional. Maybe it would be a mixture of colors.
German
Um,
roaches are a little more orangey sometimes, right?
Yeah, I try to
Maybe.
find the most
yeah.
colorful version. Like we did water striders, and I made them blue and orange because one guy I found was blue and orange. And I was like, that's the one. That's the guy.
Yeah, we actually had like a specific section of roaches that have like an orange body mutation back in my old
Mm.
lab. It's like,
Ooh.
yeah, we would refer to them as like orange body, and they looked like maybe a bit more orange. Um, yeah, so maybe this one would be orange and maybe a mix of something else. Maybe orange and white, or
Mm.
something that could maybe blend in. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts?
I think brown makes sense just because so many brown bugs are brown, but that's like you said, not very visually compelling. When he's all just one big brown. A lot of them have like these sort of black patterns on them. I think we could
Oh
probably add some
yeah,
of
that's
that.
true. Yeah, that's great. Black
Yeah,
is
I like
definitely,
like
yeah.
the orange with like a nice border, like a pale
Yeah.
coloring. Like Aaron mentioned, the white might
I
be
don't know
kind of
Oh
how.
yeah, and
neat.
like the undersides of like German cockroaches are usually
Mm.
pale. So yeah, that's a good it's a good detail.
All right, I'm pulling up some German cock. Yeah, they do get kind of pale on the bottom, don't they?
What is your favorite thing about German roaches, Aaron? Like, what's the best thing about them?
Oh God, that's a great question. What's the best thing about them? The best thing. Um, you know what? Well, I'll give a silly answer. I think the best thing about them is something that I've yet to find out.
Oh,
But
Oh,
but I think for now, I think I just I love their sort of courtship ritual, and how that completely deviates from the very narrow perception people have about roaches. It's like, oh, they can be romantic. In fact, I don't know, if people have spent time on dating apps, they can be more romantic than some people. So
yeah.
they are,
I saw a
yeah,
thing
it's
the
like,
other day that was like, if I was a couples therapist, I would make every couple that came into the office spend 10 minutes on the apps, and pretty soon they're going to be willing to work it out in couples therapy. Like, actually, I don't want to go back out there. You're right. We got to figure this out. Hold on, I gotta give him like a love note or something tucked into his pocket, so I know
Oh
that he's a
yeah.
romantic.
I love your answer that also that the best thing is something you haven't discovered yet. What a scientist answer that was, Aaron.
Hmm.
oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right.
I'll just give him some little love hearts. He's listening to Mariah Carey inside of his headphones.
Great. He's a lover and a fighter. We know this
Exactly,
man.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we usually rate our bugs out of 6 legs. Amanda, because you're new to the German roach, how many legs out of 6 would you give this guy?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard in this episode much pest behavior that I wouldn't expect of any bug who found a food source. You know what I mean? It's not like they're breaking in and being like, "Give me all your snacks." You know, it's kind of your fault if you leave the snacks out in the cupboard. I feel. So I don't know. He's pretty cool. I love that he's like friends with the other cockroaches, in as much as we can extend the word friend when talking about a bug. I think that he is a nuptial gift. I always like a nuptial gift. I mean, I feel like 6 out of 6 legs. I always feel like I'm so generous with the legs, but like, I really haven't heard anything that makes me go like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, other than like some people are really allergic to him. I guess that does kind of, that is a bummer. Then like just a little bit of his proteins. There's like, what was you said it was like 10 times as reactive as like cat dander. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I was gonna knock off a leg, it'd be for triggering allergies in people. But yeah, so I'll go 5.5 legs. I'll knock off half a leg that he lost for being giving everyone itchy eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, how many legs would you give out of 6? The German cockroach specifically.
The German cockroach specifically, I'm going to be meaner. I'm going to give it only 4 out of 6. But that's not because it's a bad bug, but it's just because I've met other bugs that are just like phenomenally cooler. Like, you know,
You can't
bees,
compete.
there's so many cool stories about them, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's very fair. That's fair.
Comparison is the theft of joy for the cockroach here today.
I think I would give him maybe, I think also a 4. 4 out of 6. Yeah, I think it's fair. I do love a nuptial gift. I love a romantic bug. I like the colonial structure of roaches. I think they're kind of neat. So, yeah, I like the color of a German roach. I think German roaches are kind of pretty, even though they're roaches. But again, my husband always makes fun of me. He's like, "Oh, you think every bug is cute? Like every single bug?" He goes, "They're not all cute. They just aren't." But I don't know. I think
that's
they
true.
Are.
I
like the little stripes.
What was it? The Helgamite, I think. What was it?
Oh, the Helgamite. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
not cute.
Dobson flies.
Dobson flies are not cute. You can't convince me of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have potential too. Like I think like when I was researching with cockroaches, there were a few that this is very weird. They had bright orange eyes. So they had some weird mutation where
Ooh.
their eyes were like bright orange. I bet if we like, you know, invested in like research with cockroaches, we could probably get like a bunch of really cool mutations out of them. So they have potential. They could really like surprise us with different phenotypes if we took the time to, kind of air out their different genes. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
we have a
we're
lot.
doing
like
that
fruit
with
flies.
isopods. Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, with isopods, it feels like we're starting to do that too. With like, don't you have a bunch of cows, Kelly, that are?
Oh, yeah. I have dairy cow isopods as pets in my
So
home,
cool.
and they're
Awesome.
black and
Yeah.
white. They're so cute, but they also come in like rubber ducky form.
Yeah, I was gonna say rubber ducky is one,
which is very sweet. Yeah, they have a lot of morphological opportunity with isopods. But I was picturing like a fruit fly, and we do lots of genetic research on fruit flies, and they have so many different weird mutations that we've kind of forced into the population.
But like, yeah, we could get cockroaches, like especially like the bigger ones. If we could get them to be like cutely striped, maybe we could PR campaign these cockroaches into being cute again.
Yeah, I mean, we do it with dogs. We have a million different dogs. Why not with cockroaches?
Why not? Especially if you could use
Yeah.
them in some sort of like helpful way. Like, here you go, cockroaches. Here's all my fruit compost, and they're like, yeah.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Yeah.
Now I'm
Well,
looking
Aaron,
at this.
is there anything else you'd like to chat about, or?
Any final
Um,
message for listeners today?
any final message? That's God, there's so many things we could talk about. Well, one thing I would really love to bring up is just the idea that like, insects are like people. They're generally good. Like, they're your friends. I mean, they're not there are always a few unsavory ones, but I think expanding your mind and sort of learning about them and just being comfortable with them and like evaluating your own emotional responses to them will make it better for yourself and for them. And yeah, they're just like any other animal. You need to learn about them and sort of give them the respect that they deserve.
Hmm. Yeah, excellent final message. Yeah. We love that here on the show. We're very bug positive. Even the unsavory characters were a little bit positive.
Yeah, even then, we can't blame the bug for being a bug.
Being a bug. Yeah.
He's just a
Mhm.
bug.
Aaron, do you have social media? Where can the people find you? And we will put links up in the show notes for all this.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so I mean I'm on Facebook, but Instagram is I think where I think I'll be focusing a lot of my content in the future. So
Hmm.
my Instagram is ARR318. And so, yeah, I post my bugs. I'll post like maybe papers that I publish. I'll post maybe events that I attend and like, if I'm on TV or something like that. So all of that goes to
Awesome.
my IG account. So yeah, feel free to check me out there.
Everyone, please check out Aaron. This was great, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us. What an awesome time this was. We really
Oh
appreciate
no,
it.
thank you so much for having me. Like, yeah, this was so fun.
And if you want to come find us, we are on the Reddit. We're also on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Blue Sky. Our Reddit has been a hot place lately. I've been very excited to log in
The
and
Reddit's
see new
been
things
popping.
on the Reddit. I love to see the Reddit going. Anyway, and if you have questions, you can email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com.
If you're a scientist and you also want to be on the show, shoot us an email. You're welcome to come. We love chatting.
Other than that, we love you. Bye. Bugs Need Heroes was created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman. Hosted by Amanda Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad, with some assistance from Chelsea Bodden and a few cats. Character art is by Amanda Niday. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out at bugsneedheroes.com, and most of the socials are under Bugs Need Heroes. Thanks for stopping by.
Amanda and I are siblings, so I roped her in for this. I figured there was enough, like, 30-something white guys doing podcasts. I don't need to add my voice to that, so it's someone else who is funnier and charminger than me, so...
I don't think I've ever heard you compliment Amanda before. That's
I don't
so
think
sweet.
I've ever
It's
heard
rare.
her compliment me before.
Aaron, you're already bringing out the best in us. Look at
Look
this.
at that.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I enjoy this. It's fantastic.